I wanted to say that we are happy to welcome you in this virtual world. I welcome on this virtual stage the moderator of the next session. The next session is about cities, charities, social entrepreneurs, NGOs, teachers, and everything that makes pro bono a reality. So I welcome Andrea Sanchez, CEO of Work for Social, a Spanish organization dedicated to pro bono. I welcome the speakers Alexander Shermansong, CEO of Civic Consulting. I welcome Charlotte Patinier, Head of Partnerships and Corporate Programs at makesense. Antoine Clément, Mentoring and Co-Lead, SAP. And finally, Dieynaba Sall, Head of Operations at Pro Bono Lab. So please come to the stage. We welcome you and we are eager to hear from you and to learn from your experiences.
Thank you, Antoine. Hello, everyone. Well, I'm happy to be here and very happy to moderate this session. As Antoine just said, we have 4 very engaged, pro bono engaged people in 4 different kind of organizations. So we have Alexander from the United States, CEO of Civic Consultant. He has been working for several years in this organization, promoting pro bono programs in cities like San Francisco, Baltimore, and many others. And we have Antoine Clément. He's co-leading the mentoring program of SAP, where he works as a developer program. We also have Charlotte Patinier, in charge of corporate relationships in makesense, which is an organization that promotes social innovation and helps social entrepreneurs for the social change. And we have Dieynaba Sall, in charge of operations at Pro Bono Lab, which you might know very well. We have they are going to share their different perspective on pro bono, on different kind of beneficiaries, such as social entrepreneurs, small and medium associations, and how to implement pro bono in big corporations. So I think this is going to be a very interesting conversation with the 4 of you. And we will have also some time for your questions, but don't hesitate to write it down in the public chat. And I will be in charge of reading everything. So welcome everyone. For the I don't know if you want to share your cameras as well, Alexander or Antoine and Dieynaba, so we can see you. Okay, welcome, Antoine. Okay, so let's start with the first question. What is your own definition of pro bono, and when was your first experience with pro bono, and how was it? Let's start with Alexander, maybe.
Sure. Hi, I'm Alexander from Civic Consulting. We're a nonprofit that works with cities and companies on transformative pro bono efforts. Some of the things we've worked on have been re-envisioning social housing in New York City to better connect residents with communities, developing a new justice program in Brooklyn with the DA, with Baltimore, rethinking the operations of the police department in order to be more efficient and enable more responsive policing. And as I think about what is the definition of pro bono, simply put, it's skilled volunteering. So it's when you're working on a project without remuneration, using your professional skills. I think there's some disagreement in the field about whether pro bono is strictly speaking just skilled volunteering or skilled volunteering where you're sponsored by your company. That is, if you're working as an individual volunteer, does that still count as pro bono or not? And I think that's an interesting tension to explore in the field.
Thank you a lot, Alexander. Dieynaba, do you want to share your definition?
Yes. Hello, everyone. You cannot see me, but I'm here. I'm somewhere on the stage. So we are called Pro Bono Lab, so I will try not to fail this question. So my definition of pro bono, I would say that I agree with Alexander's definition, but what I would like to add is that the pro bono is the act of sharing of one's skills to contribute to the public good. So as you may see in the definition of pro bono, there isn't a notion of non-profit organization or social entrepreneurs, beneficiary or volunteer. So I would say that it's not really about who is the beneficiary and who receives pro bono, but it's more about transmission and about sharing to advance the resolution and the contribution of our global issues. So that would be my definition of pro bono.
Thank you very much, Dieynaba. Very interesting, this point of transmission. And Charlotte? Yes.
Okay, brilliant. Hello everyone, happy to be with you today. So I'm working at makesense. Makesense, we have a lot of contact with social entrepreneurs because we have an incubator and we have a whole range of other programs. On the one hand, those social entrepreneurs have problems like every entrepreneur, or rather challenges. And on the other hand, we work a lot with organizations who want to get their employees on board around social and environmental issues. And we thought there was a good match to be done. So that's very simply how we started to initiate pro bono programs. And we're happy to do it with SAP, among others. So I'm not sure whether Antoine is going to be able to activate his mic, but we've been working with Antoine on that for a couple of years now, and it's brilliant to see everyone happy at the end, because employees are delighted to be able to feel useful and to feel that their skills is impactful, and social entrepreneurs are delighted to have their issues solved. So that's how we see things. That makes sense very simply.
Thank you, Charlotte. Let's jump to the next question. Since you work in different organizations, my question is for you, what is the reason to do pro bono for different beneficiaries such as cities or social entrepreneurs or small and medium associations, and what challenges do they have when receiving pro bono? For instance, Alexander, for the cities, what's your point of view?
So the value of pro bono for cities is, there are a few reasons here. One is pro bono can give cities access to skills and talent that they might not otherwise be able to reach through traditional hiring or procurement vehicles. As one of our clients put it, pro bono works best when you don't even know what it is you need. That is, when you can't write a job description or you can't write a procurement, pro bono is something that can help you figure out what it is you need. It also, for cities, forges stronger community bonds. Often, especially in big cities, we feel very isolated and disconnected from each other and from other sectors. And pro bono projects can bring people together from government, business, community, and create lasting networks that lead to more resilient cities as well. So it works both from an organizational perspective, delivering transformative capacity, and it works from an ecosystem perspective, making the place more resilient and sustainable.
Thank you, Alexander. Really interesting. Dieynaba?
Do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, yes.
So Pro Bono Lab, we are used to, throughout the time, we have come to help more often small and medium-sized associations. Though Pro Bono can be beneficial and can be useful for all types of structures, as we will see today, our methodology is adapted for all kinds of NGO, but we believe we can have more impact on small and medium-sized NGO, because one of the most important phases when we are on the pro bono program is the first phase of diagnosis, or as you say, scoping phase, and try to identify the needs of the NGO. Sometimes they come to us saying, I have a problem with my communication strategy. Our role is to dig deeper than that and to identify if it really is this kind of problem, or if it's not, we go through a series of questions about governance, their economic model, their HR, etc. And the idea is to have a kind of a SWOT to identify the strengths and the weaknesses of the non-profit organizations. And I would say that it can be sometimes challenging for them because they're really invested with their project, with their organization. So being in next to someone telling them this is good, this is you need to work on that, you can better that. Sometimes it can be challenging for them. So our role is to prepare them for that for that mission and for that to accompany them with the subject, but because they will sometimes tell us, okay, but I will be helped, for example, by corporate volunteers. They don't know the subject of handicap, for example. How can you make sure it will be helpful and useful for us? So our role, I would say, is that, and our what we can bring them and help them with is with this preparation phase on the NGO side, but also on the volunteer side.
Okay, thank you, Dieynaba. Charlotte?
What has been said just before, probably on top of so obviously on the side of social entrepreneurs, it's almost a no-brainer for them to take part in pro bono schemes because they have a problem and potentially have people with skills to help them, so they're delighted about it. But on the corporate side or the organization, it's interesting to see that sometimes they have different reasons to engage in pro bono. Sometimes they want to bring a bit of answer to the quest for meaning that they observe with employees. So that's that question of what is my job useful for? That's something that comes over and over again. Sometimes it's indeed to create links between their different entities because they have departments that don't talk to each other, and pro bono programs are also a way to make people interact. Obviously, it's a way to embody their social commitments because they try a lot to communicate on what they stand for, but it's also a concrete way to show that they're doing something. And sometimes, more surprisingly, it's also a way to develop new offers and new businesses because in some programs we have social entrepreneurs doing something in the same field as the corporate, and they decide to work together. And I know at SAP there's a lot of stories around collaboration between SAP and the startups they've been helping. So yeah, there's a whole lot of reasons why they would engage in such programs.
Thank you, Charlotte. I don't know if Antoine can already.
Yes, I think I've made it back. A restart and some sweat, but I think I'm with you now. So what was the question, please, Andrea?
Sorry, the question was, what is the reason to do pro bono in a big corporation, in your case?
Well, I think social entrepreneurs and NGOs, they are the first line of creating a new world and changing the world. And us in big companies, employees, we are the second line. And I think pro bono is the way to create that connection between the second line and the first line, to provide support, energy, skills, tools. And I think the main reason why to do pro bono is because I believe that social entrepreneurs, they cannot change the world on their own, neither can big companies. But if we work together, I think we can create a large impact and scale up all the good social innovations that the social entrepreneurs are creating.
Thank you, Antoine. I really like the fact that you have repeated yourself on the bonding point of pro bono. But I'd like Alexander to hear from you the challenges in a city to receive a pro bono program. What are the difficulties for the cities?
Yeah, so the challenges for cities engaging in pro bono projects include all the challenges that other organizations have, as we've been talking about, scoping the project effectively, understanding how to use volunteers. Those challenges exist. In addition, for cities, there are a few perhaps unique challenges. One is, as public agencies, especially in democratic republic countries, there's a duty of transparency and responsiveness around procurement, hiring, and problem solving. So pro bono projects generally have a level of disclosure that might not be seen in other organizations. And for some people working on these projects, that can be the first time that you've worked in, as we like to say, a fishbowl, where everyone can see what you're doing. I think the second major challenge is the sheer scale of the issues that city governments work on. Even if you're looking at something as targeted as an outreach plan for a service, you're often reaching out to hundreds of thousands, millions of people across many different demographics. And because of the complexity and scale of these problems, it often means that no one individual or one company provide the diversity of skills and the depth of skills that are needed to make a meaningful difference. Therefore, what we've developed is an approach for many companies to work alongside each other in a coordinated collective impact fashion towards a common goal. And we found by bringing that diversity of skills over time, sometimes months, if not years, we're able to overcome the challenges of helping city government address transformative systemic problems.
Thank you, Alexander. Antoine, and maybe as well, Charlotte, you can answer the question on the difficulties in SAP for maybe at the beginning of the program. How was it at the beginning? What were the main difficulties to implement such a program there?
Well, I think the main challenge when you create a pro bono program is to be able to give and create value for everyone. You need to create value for the social entrepreneurs. They need to get something out of it. You need to create value for the employees, and you need to create value for the company who is running the pro bono program. If everybody is getting something positive out of it, then the program will be, I believe, a success. Otherwise, the energy will fall down. So the main challenge is to find a way for each situation. Each company has a different DNA. Each social entrepreneur has different needs. So you need to adapt and be very agile to create value for all the participants.
Thank you, Antoine. Charlotte, do you want to add something else?
Yeah, is that okay? Yeah, okay. Totally aligned. And also it's important to adapt to the cultural context of the organization. So to find the appropriate project, so a project that is not too much in competition with what the company is doing, but also that has some links so that people can identify or just relate to the project. Also to find the adapted format for employees to want to come in and to engage. So sometimes for some partners it's at lunchtime, because we don't have any other slot where they can be available. Sometimes it's over full day. Sometimes it's an afternoon of doing intelligence workshops. And it's really different from a company to another, and it's important to keep that in mind if you want to be sure your program will be a success, to just realize what type of culture you're in and try to find the adapted project.
Thank you, Charlotte. Dieynaba?
Can I pick up on the culture comment? I think the notion of cultural communication is a huge challenge when it comes to working with city government. There's often people coming from a business world have more of a financial or economic understanding of what success is. And for city governments, the economics is really just one part of a much more complex issue around delivering on a mission. And in a lot of cases, what makes sense from an economic perspective for a city, isn't actually what they want to do, right? And so I think that is a mindset that can be hard for people from a traditional business background to get used to. That there's just more values that count towards success in the social sector.
Thank you, Alexander. And Dieynaba,
Yes,
as an intermediary, what are the main factors that you take into account in order to implement in the best conditions a pro bono collaboration in terms of length or skills, or I don't know? Can you share that?
Yes, just to react on what was said before, I really like the idea of it is a challenge to create value for all the participants, be it NGOs, social entrepreneurs, cities, and volunteers. And sometimes we have to find the balance to maximize impact on all of these participants. So I really agree with that idea. And what I would like to add is that it's also a challenge for NGOs to come from the idea to the implementations. Sometimes it can be really very frustrating in pro bono projects when the NGO goes with a lot of ideas and the volunteers, they have a lot of ideas. Okay, you should do this, you should do that. It's not as simple as that, and also it takes time. It takes time to be involved in this kind of program, in this kind of collaboration. So our main challenge is to make sure that the volunteers who are here to help the NGO, they are not in a posture of advisor, but they also are here to do effectively, to help the social entrepreneur or the NGO implement. And Charlotte was saying before that sometimes there are concrete projects that come out of this kind of programs, and this is the ideal. This is the ideal way that it when it goes that way, and the NGO goes back with a concrete project. I think it's the way to create value for the NGO, but also for the volunteers, because they feel that they have achieved something very concrete. And for example, they have worked on the website of an NGO. Tomorrow they can see that this is the result of their pro bono project. So I would say that the challenge for us really is to make pro bono live in the long run, even if we are in short-term format. For example, at Pro Bono Lab, we are used to organize pro bono marathons during a day, but during one day. But the important thing that we try to create is a bond, and the fact that the volunteers, they will continue to follow the NGO and to help her implement. So I hope this answers your question, Andrea.
Yes, thank you. Well, you work on pro bono programs very different. How do you implement these programs? I mean, in a city, what do you tackle? What is the length, Alexander?
So what is the lens for pro bono projects?
The usual.
So you're echoing. Can you say it once more? I didn't hear you. There was an echo.
Yes, if we have the both of us, the micro open, we have an echo. So yeah, I mean, how do you implement these programs in a city? I mean, what is the length of the scope phase, etc., and the implementation and so on?
So I would separate the question into two parts. One is how do you develop pro bono partnerships from the get-go in a city, and the second one is for any specific targeted effort of it, how do you initiate that? The first question of partnerships in general, generally what I've seen happen is that there is some external force. Our approach got started more than 40 years ago in Chicago when it was facing fiscal insolvency. And the mayor and the city council simply didn't know how to turn the city around. And so they reached out to the business community for support around that. In Baltimore, they launched a similar partnership because they were seeing the benefits of the revitalization of the city really be a stark tale of two cities. And we're concerned about more equitable distribution of the economic revitalization city. So there's that propelling event that causes both the business leaders and the city leaders to say, you know what, the way we've been doing this just isn't going to work anymore. We need a fundamentally new approach. And it's that awakening and that willingness then to try things that launches the partnership. It works best when it really is a partnership, not just a matter of the mayor defining priorities or business leaders defining priorities, but together identifying areas of joint concern to collaborate on. And then for the specific focus topics, it takes an agency head, a commissioner or such, who really wants that type of external support, because frankly, it can be destabilizing to have a bunch of skilled professionals questioning how you run your organization. To be open for that type of collaboration, innovation, experimentation is an unusual mindset, I think, for most organizations, and especially so in local government. So it takes both the willingness to work together as well as the willingness to try things and be vulnerable.
Thank you, Alexander. And Antoine and Charlotte, what was the success? What can you tell us? What was the main success of the mentoring program in SAP? Why it has growth so fast, and why employees are so engaged?
Well, I think it works because it's useful to social entrepreneurs, and people love to be useful. They love to share their expertise. So I think we've made a way to find a working model. So the social entrepreneur is getting a team of volunteers for 6 months that he will meet once a month to share his challenges and to work all together on some solutions. And I think the ability to create small teams like that of one entrepreneur plus its volunteers has made us able to scale up the mentoring program, because everybody is a volunteer, even organizers, everyone is volunteer. We all do it over the lunch breaks. So this ability to share the model is made it successful, and of course to be useful to social entrepreneurs, because it has always been and will always be the main purpose of that pro bono program.
Thank you, Charlotte. And from the point of view of the social entrepreneurs?
Sure. The fact that Antoine is so committed has also played a big role in the fact that it was so successful at SAP. Probably on a more general perspective, I'd say, although there are plenty of factors, usually we have a combination of 3 big factors, which is the fact that there is some strong leadership and sponsorship behind it. So if you have a director that has the real will to do things, generally that helps a lot, obviously. Then I guess having a community approach to the mentors and the employees who are getting engaged is really important as well. It seems, it may not seem that important, but it's crucial in the fact that it creates a bottom-up approach to engagement. that makes everyone feel that they can be involved as well, and they can talk to another colleague about it, and that creates a snowball effect that is really useful when you want to get on scale with the program. And the last thing, which is also quite often forgotten, but it's really key, is to measure the impact of your program, because if you can measure your impact and prove that it's useful, as Antoine just said, then it's so much easier to get other people engaged, because people want sometimes to get on board, but they're not sure that they're really going to help. But if you say, well, look, we've helped 7 entrepreneurs last year, 6 of them got deals with such and such partners, and it's amazing what we can do on our time to help them come and join, then it's so much useful. And also you can correct if you're not going into the right direction, so you can adjust also your program. So I'd say, yeah, sponsorship, community approach, and impact are really 3 key factors to me.
Thank you very much, Charlotte. And before closing this round of questions, just I'd like to ask Dieynaba, this approach of associations doing pro bono for other associations. Dieynaba, maybe you can tell us what has been the result of this innovative program.
Yes, indeed. What I was saying in my definition of pro bono is that there is not a defined actor to answer the question of this panel, who makes pro bono a reality. I think a lot of different actors, and this is what makes it so great and so rich. And what we have developed over the years in one of our programs is to organize every year a pro bono day dedicated to associations helping other associations, because we believe that since they share the same challenges, they share the same realities, it's sometimes easier for them to share expertise. And it is also important for us to recognize the fact that an NGO can also share with another, and because they have skills, and also because so the program that we implemented is for example, 2 weeks ago we gathered 10 NGOs working on the TEM, so the reduction of inequalities, and the idea was for them to share their perspectives, their experiences, and their skills on different topics. And it really was a success, because they work on the same. Sometimes we believe there is we could inspire more collaboration. I think it's key to inspire collaboration between NGOs, but also between NGOs and the corporate world, but between NGOs themselves. It's important for us to inspire collaboration. So this program was very interesting, and the returns of the NGOs was very positive. And another of experimentation that we did last year was to organize an event where there were nonprofits doing pro bono for corporate foundations. So we kind of reversed the process, and it also was very enriching for both of them and for all participants, because yes, we think pro bono can and should be accessible for all types of structures.
Thank you, Dieynaba. This is really interesting. We are running out of time, so let's close with my last question. How do you envision pro bono? Do you think it's going to be more spread in the future? What is the role of pro bono in the future of work? Who wants to start? Alexander, for instance?
Sure. So I've seen the role of pro bono really change a lot over the last 20-some years. I think when I started doing this work, a lot of companies use pro bono programs as a way to ease people into retirement or out of their jobs. And so often that the people on pro bono projects were the ones that the companies didn't want. I think in the aughts, we saw the value of pro bono services change with some market leaders seeing it as a way to develop their staff, leadership development, network development, and saw a shift where companies started allowing only their highest performing employees to do pro bono projects. And I think over that time, individuals have seen the wonderful resume boosting opportunities of skilled volunteering. So we see people much more eager, especially early mid-career, take on additional assignments outside their regular work in order to try new things, build, reach, and have a more well-rounded resume. In fact, I've seen promotions come out of pro bono projects as people demonstrate sides of their skills that weren't otherwise seen. Looking forward now, I think we're at a point where pro bono is become very professionalized. And there's a lot of models out there. SAP is one where companies are doing this and testifying to the benefits of pro bono services. And so we're seeing it much more regularized. The good news for that is that as an organization seeking pro bono services, you have a lot more options now. You did several years ago, and I think that's going to grow. You're going to continue to see globally more options for pro bono services. In fact, I was just talking with the city of Lagos, Nigeria, use pro bono services, developing the current economic development plan for the region, right? And so that's something that would not have happened 20 years ago. So that's a wonderful birth. I think as we see these programs expand, there are going to be a lot more opportunities for pro bono projects. And I think that challenge in the next phase is going to ensure that the organizations using the skills have the similar growth and are putting their best foot forward in terms of using the volunteer skills so that it's a great experience all around and it leads to the impact, which is why we're all doing this.
Thank you, Alexander. Charlotte, what is your vision?
I think that might also be a way to reconcile the personal side of employees and the professional side, because we see a lot of employees being very involved in extra professional activities, and they give their time to NGOs and amazing projects, and giving them the opportunity to do it at work really helps reconcile those two parts of them. And I believe having the possibility to be completely yourself at work is really key. So to me, it's important that more and more companies can give this opportunity to their employees, especially as we have a growing number of social entrepreneurs who need help and qualified help from these companies. So I'm delighted to see that over the years, to see that it's a growing trend, and not only a trend, but something that seems to be rooted in some companies' way of working. And the example of SAP is quite amazing in that it has been on for 5 or 6 years now, and it's a key part of it's one of the key reasons quoted by some employees for the reasons that they want to stay at SAP, and that they project themselves there. So we're happy to see that, of course.
Great, Charlotte. Antoine?
I think there will be more and more pro bono in the coming years, and especially big companies are going to do it more and more, because I think they need it. They need it because the employee demands it, and it's not only the younglings and mid-career. What I see at SAP France, we have people from their 20s to their 60s who wants to engage and help social entrepreneurs. So they are putting some pressure on the company. And also the entire ecosystem is putting some pressure on the company. Partners, customers, suppliers, press, everybody is asking what is your concrete impact? What are you really doing? I think we've been past the social and greenwashing, and people now, they want acts and they want facts. And also because the entire world needs it. I think we need social entrepreneurs, and social entrepreneurs needs help. They need big companies and many other stakeholders to help. And I believe that more and more companies are going to realize their own benefits and they realize the value that they can take from allowing that much pro bono, creating new synergies, an ecosystem, and more impact, engaged employees. There are plenty of benefits for the company. And I think now in SAP, this is what I see. The pro bono is shifting a little bit from the CSR, traditional foundation organization, to the business, because the business has come to realize that they are taking a lot of value from that engagement and that sincere engagement. And the real challenge for the future, in my opinion, would be how the CSR and traditional pro bono organizations support that shift and support that scale up from happy fews to an entire company being engaged toward a common cause. And I think this will be really interesting to see how the foundation can share their expertise, their networks, their tools, all they've been building up over the years with NGOs and social entrepreneurs, and to propose that to the rest of the company.
Thank you, Antoine. And Dieynaba?
Quickly to conclude on this point, I think we can all agree that and we hope that pro bono will spread and will develop in the future, because it's a tool for companies at every stage of your career, being a young entering a company, being at your mid-career, at the end of your career. But I think the future of pro bono is that it has to get out of the companies and be accessible for everyone. In the coming years, I also think it will be natural for a company to run a pro bono program, but the challenge is elsewhere. I think pro bono program for public actors, pro bono program for students, for high school kids. We are implementing such experimentation at Pro Bono Lab. And I think pro bono, the future of pro bono resides not only in companies, but also in every part of our society. And we have to infuse that from the early age in schools. That's what we're trying to do with the BEAS project that you know very well, Andrea, but also in the public sector and continue being developed in companies. So that would be my hope for the future of pro bono.
Thank you very much. They are very optimistic visions I share with you. So we have 5 minutes, if I am not wrong, or maybe 3, for the public to ask any question. Otherwise, no, someone want to say something? We have Daniel and Ashley writing.
If there are questions, please ask them on the chat, and if not, we will move on to the next session. So thank you everyone for participating to this session. It was really interesting. We learned about how pro bono can have different beneficiaries through different intermediaries and how it leads to different challenge. We learned, for instance, that there is a duty of transparency with the city, and there are problems with sales. Also for small non-profits, there are problems with expressing their fragilities, expressing their weaknesses. It was really interesting. And we also learned that there are common challenges for pro bono. One of them is to adapt to cultural stakeholders' differences, to understand the mindset that can exist in one sector or in another. And also another is to always make sure that there is value for every stakeholders, that they know where is the value and that this value can be evaluated and proved, that pro bono needs proof to go on. So thank you very much to all the participants of this panel.